Part 1. The Man They Didn't See. My sister's wedding changed everything. I didn't expect to be invisible that day. Not after everything I'd done to get my sister to that moment, in her dress, beaming in the golden light of her wedding. But there I stood, at the edge of the reception hall, holding a drink I didn't even want, watching a man named Roland Rowe walk right past me like I was furniture. No nod, no eye contact, just a breeze of importance pushing through the air. That kind of silence, the practiced kind, says more than words ever could. Men like him don't see people like me unless they come with titles. Suits tailored with credentials, introductions laced with prestige. But I didn't say a word. Not then, not yet. What he didn't know, what made my chest tighten with something between fury and amusement, was that for the past 6 months, he'd been trying to buy out a tech company he didn't realize I co-founded. A company that powered his very own empire behind the scenes. A company I built while raising the woman he just watched walk down the aisle in white. And in a few minutes, when I'd take the mic to say a few words as the brother of the bride, all of that would become clear. His face would change, his posture, his grip on that overpriced glass of Merlot. But before we get there, you need to understand how I got to this point. Why I stood in that room not needing his approval, but quietly prepared to reshape his perception with a single speech. This story didn't start with revenge. It started with loss. It was the kind of phone call you never forget. The sound of your name spoken too gently. The long pause that tells you everything before the words even land. Lucian, there's been an accident. I was 22, finals week, my mind full of exams and caffeine and the pressure to keep everything from falling apart. I thought my father would be visiting in a week or two. He had even asked what he should bring for my sister, Isolde. But there was no visit. Just the long drive home to a house already empty in all the wrong ways. We didn't have a mother to catch us. She left long ago for a second life and a better man. It was just me and Isolde, two half-grown humans suddenly left without a net. The funeral passed in a blur of suits, cheap cologne, and condolences that didn't know where to land. But grief doesn't end when the guests leave. That's when the real noise begins. The creditors, the paperwork, the unpaid bills tucked in drawers. My father had tried to shield us. But the financial collapse hit hard and fast. They took the house, the car, the workshop. We were left with one suitcase, a college scholarship, and a younger sister still clinging to her future like it wasn't falling apart. That night we sat on the floor. No furniture, no plan. Just her knees tucked into a hoodie and the realization that no one else was coming. I became the only adult in her life. I juggled 3 jobs. Day shifts at the campus cafe, nights delivering packages, weekends running spreadsheets for anyone who paid cash under the table. I'd study in the margins between deliveries. Sleep 4 hours if I was lucky. I learned to survive on microwave meals and adrenaline. My girlfriend left. I didn't blame her. She needed presence, and I was a ghost even when I showed up. There were no roses, no soft moments. Just grit. I gave everything to my sister because she was the only family I had left. They say trauma either breaks you or builds you. Mine built a man I didn't recognize when I looked in the mirror. Tired eyes, cracked hands, a heart full of responsibility, but never regret. When I graduated, there were no photos, no celebration, just a quiet job at a mid-tier firm and a modest apartment where I slept on the couch and gave Isolde the only bedroom. She deserved more than survival. She deserved peace. So I worked, cooked, studied online in the dark. I told myself, this is temporary. One day, we won't live like this. That one day came with a message from Felix Marine, an old classmate full of ideas and startup dreams. He had a prototype, no funding, and a crazy belief in my skills. I almost said no, but my soul had been asleep for too long, so I said yes. That decision rewrote our lives. Part 2. The man they didn't see, my sister's wedding changed everything. We didn't have an office. We had coffee shops, borrowed Wi-Fi, and secondhand laptops that ran hot and loud. I'd come home from my corporate job at 6, eat standing up, and then dive into pitch decks and back-end systems with Felix until 2 in the morning. Sometimes I'd fall asleep mid-keystroke, the glow of code still flickering across my eyelids. Those early days weren't romantic. They were desperate. But they were alive. We lost a co-founder during a dry spell, 6 months without a single client. I don't blame him. That kind of limbo can eat a man's ambition. But Felix and I stayed. We had to. We were too deep in the build to turn back. And then it happened. A mid-sized logistics firm agreed to pilot our tool. Within 2 weeks, they slashed their processing time by 40. 3 of their partners signed on. Suddenly, we weren't 2 guys dreaming. We were 2 guys delivering. There was no explosion of success, no viral moment. Just a slow, steady burn of referrals and support tickets and nights where we'd fix a bug at midnight, then celebrate with corner store champagne. We didn't hire a PR team. Felix gave a talk at a TEDx event and someone wrote about us. That article brought our first real wave of inbound interest. But even then, I didn't quit my day job. I couldn't. I knew what it felt like to lose everything. I wasn't about to bet my sister's life on good press. Instead, I stayed quiet, focused. I was the guy behind the curtain, running support, drafting contracts, watching every penny. People love faces. Felix was our face, I was the engine. And truthfully, I didn't need credit. I had something better. Security. A stocked fridge. An apartment with heat. Isolde getting into a good state school on her own merit. I paid every bill on time. We had health insurance. That was my victory lap. But silence has a cost. Because when people only see the calm surface, they assume there's nothing beneath it. They meet you at events, glance at your shoes, and assign you a value like you're a product on a shelf. Roland Rowe was one of those people. I still remember the night Isolde told me she was getting married. It was late, past midnight. I was eating cold pasta straight out of the container, watching the cursor blink on yet another client email. The phone rang, and her voice was soft but breathless. "Lucian, I have something to tell you." My first thought was, she's failing a class, or she's sick, or maybe she needs help moving again. I wasn't prepared for the words that came next. "I'm getting married." I paused, fork in midair. "To who?" I asked. "To Damien." The name was familiar, vaguely. I'd met him once, in passing, a handshake, a quick smile. He hadn't left an impression. "You're sure?" I asked. "I'm happy," she said. "Really, really happy." And she was. I could hear it. That soft, unguarded joy I hadn't heard in her voice since maybe ever. I told her I wanted to meet him, not as a test, just as her brother. The one who stayed, the one who raised her. If someone else was going to take up that torch, I needed to see the fire in his eyes. We had dinner that Friday. I cooked, nothing fancy. Damien showed up with flowers and a bottle of wine, like a man trying to hit every polite note. He was charming, well-spoken. I didn't dislike him. Then came the last name. "Rowe," I repeated, swirling it in my mouth like I was trying to remember if it was sweet or bitter. "Any relation to Roland Rowe?" His hesitation was barely a beat, but enough for me to catch. "He's my father." And just like that, everything clicked. Roland Rowe. The man who'd been circling our platform for months. The man who sent polite but predatory emails asking if we'd consider partnering or join his portfolio. The man who didn't see people, only leverage. I didn't flinch, didn't mention business. This dinner was about my sister. If Damien was truly a different man, I'd make peace with the lineage. That night in the kitchen, Isolde asked if I was okay. I nodded, told her I trusted her judgment, because I did. She wasn't a girl anymore. She didn't need protection. But I'd always be her shield, just in case. The family meet and greet was held at a country club straight out of a movie. Crisp white linens, quiet music, staff that moved like shadows. I hated it instantly. When I walked in, Roland saw me, took me in, shoes, suit, posture, and then he looked away. When we were introduced, he said, "Oh, you're just her brother. I assumed her father would be here." Just her brother. The words didn't sting. Not exactly. They slid past my skin and into something deeper, something cold. "Our father passed away years ago," I said. He offered a nod and moved on. Then came the question. It always comes. "What is it that you do again?" I shrugged. "Corporate." He lost interest immediately, and I let him. Because people like Roland only know how to value what they recognize. And I knew he was about to learn something new. Part 3, The Man They Didn't See. My sister's wedding changed everything. Weddings bring out the best in people, and the worst. On the morning of Isolde's wedding, the air felt fragile. There's a kind of quiet you only get before something sacred. She looked radiant, but nervous. I tied her bracelet on for her. Her hands were shaking. "You okay?" I asked. She smiled, but it was tight. "What if I cry walking down the aisle?" "Then you cry," I said. "But you keep walking." She nodded, eyes glassy. "Thank you for being both my brother and my dad. For not giving up on me." I wanted to say something profound, but all that came out was, "There was never a day I didn't love you." The ceremony was perfect. Too perfect. And perfection always makes me suspicious. At the reception, I kept to the edges of the room. I'd done my part, walked her down the aisle, smiled in photos, toasted with champagne I couldn't pronounce. I wasn't looking for attention. I never had been. Then I saw him again, Roland Rowe. This time he wasn't alone. 2 men flanked him, laughing at something smug and quiet. Roland glanced in my direction, then turned his back deliberately. It was a performance. Dismissal, choreographed like a handshake. I stood still, emotionless. I have learned not to let those moments live rent-free in my body. But inside, something cracked. Not because I needed Roland's respect, but because for people like him, power is visibility. And I had chosen to be invisible for so long that men like him thought I was small. That's the heartbreak of being the quiet one. You disappear so well that even your victories feel like secrets. I wasn't supposed to speak that night. My name wasn't on the program. I had no speech prepared, no note cards tucked in my jacket. But just as I was about to leave early, a catering staff member tapped my shoulder. "You're next." I blinked. Next for what? "The speech. You're up in 2 minutes. It must have been Isolde. She snuck me onto the list. I should have declined, but I didn't. I looked out at the crowd, faces lit by golden bulbs, wine glasses half full, laughter softening the corners of the room. They didn't know me, not really, and that was fine. But I owed her this. I owed myself this. I stood at the microphone, heart calm, voice steady. "Good evening," I said. "My name is Lucian Trent. I'm Isolde's brother." That got their attention. Because I didn't look like a brother, I looked like an accountant. People turned toward me, some still chewing. "But I wasn't just her brother," I continued. "After our father passed unexpectedly, I became her guardian. I was 22. She was 17. We had no other family. Our mother left long before that, so it was just us." I let that silence stretch. I was finishing college, working 3 jobs, sleeping on a couch while she finished high school. I wasn't perfect. I missed moments. I made mistakes. But we made it. I looked at Isolde. She was already crying. She made it because she's brilliant and brave and has a heart big enough to forgive me for all the times I wasn't enough. There was a shift in the air, an awareness. During those years, I added, While trying to survive, I helped co-found a tech startup. Some of you may even use it. My co-founder Felix over there, he and I built it from scratch. Coffee shops, broken laptops, borrowed code. Today, it supports some of the biggest companies in the country. That landed. Eyes widened. Murmurs sparked. I let it settle. But I didn't come here to talk about business. I came here to say, I've watched this woman grow from a girl clinging to certainty into someone who walks into love with open hands. She didn't become strong because she had to. She became strong because she wanted to. And today she's marrying someone who sees her the way she deserves to be seen. I turned toward Damien. Take care of her. Not just when it's easy, but when it's not. Because she is the best of everything I ever had to give. I stepped back. The room stood in silence for a breath, and then applause. Warm, not polite, real. I hadn't made it halfway back to my table when Roland intercepted me. Lucian, was it? He asked, extending a hand. His smile was tight, calculated, like he was still scanning me for some price tag. That was quite a speech. Thank you, I said, my grip firm. You're the co-founder of... He trailed off, clearly searching. I nodded. The same company you've been trying to acquire. His smile cracked. Just a flicker. I had no idea. I know, I said. That's why I didn't mention it. I wanted you to see who I was when you thought I was nobody. He didn't reply, not really. Just blinked. Processing. I gave him a smile, not cruel, just clear. Enjoy the evening, Mr. Rowe. And I walked past him. I never looked back. Part 4, The Man They Didn't See. My sister's wedding changed everything. The rest of the night unfolded gently, like exhale after years of breath held too long. No fireworks, no confrontations, just the quiet realization that a chapter had closed. And I had walked through it standing tall. Roland didn't speak to me again. He floated around the room, now aware of me, but unsure how to categorize me. And that was fine. I wasn't there to be categorized. I was there for her. Isolde danced without hesitation, eyes shining, arms outstretched like the world no longer owed her anything. Damien moved with her, not ahead, not behind, just beside. And for the first time, I saw what she meant. He wasn't his father, not in the ways that mattered. In the weeks that followed, life returned to its regular rhythm. The inbox filled. Code updates piled up. Deadlines came. And yet, something had shifted inside me. We never sold the company to Rowe Industries. Not because of Roland's arrogance, not even because of the way he dismissed me. The truth? The offers looked good on paper, impressive even. But you learn to read the fine print when you've had to stretch every dollar. Roland's offer didn't come with partnership. It came with ownership, control, assumption. He thought everything had a price, that I had a price. But I've never built anything worth selling just to prove I could. I didn't build that platform for attention. I built it for survival, for security, for my sister. Felix and I stayed independent. We scaled slowly, on our own terms, purposefully. Ironically, Rowe's own company now licenses our software. They file support tickets through the same portal as every other client. And when they do, we respond professionally. Politely. No discounts, no backdoor favors. Just business. Damien never mentioned it. He didn't need to. He's a man who understands what not to ask. That's how I knew he was different. He respected my boundaries. More importantly, he respected hers. That was all I needed. Over time, he became part of the family I never expected to grow again. Holidays, game nights, occasional advice over beers when the world seemed too loud. He never flinched when I got quiet, never tried to outdo me. He just showed up, reliably, consistently. And that's the kind of man who deserves someone like Isolde. She's thriving now. She teaches literature, grows basil in her kitchen window. volunteers at an after-school program. She smiles often, and not the tight, polite kind. The full-face, soft eyes kind. The kind I fought to protect. That smile is my legacy. Not the company, not the revenue, not the silent wins behind the scenes. Her smile. Sometimes people still underestimate me. At networking events, at conferences, in coffee lines and fundraisers. They look past me like I'm invisible. And I let them. Not out of weakness, but because I've learned something powerful. The ones who only see your value once they learn your title don't deserve your truth. Real respect doesn't wait for a name badge. It recognizes presence. And I don't need applause. I've had enough silence to know what peace sounds like. If there's anything this journey has taught me, it's this. You don't rise by shouting your worth. You rise by living it, quietly, firmly, without apology. People will try to define you by what they see. Let them. And then, when it matters most, stand. Speak. Let your story breathe into the room like truth wrapped in fire, because the moment they realize who you are, it's already too late for them to shrink you. You've outgrown their shadow. Isolde still texts me random things. Photos of her garden, bad puns, teacher memes. Sometimes just love you, big bro. And every time I smile. Because that's my win. That's the story I'll keep telling. Not to be seen, but to remember who I became when no one was watching.